right, family, welcome back to another Stay Juicy podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Ariana, and I'm so excited today. I have a guest. Actually, ever since I knew I was going to do this podcast and I met this woman, I just knew that she was going to be on my podcast. I wanted her, in fact, to be one of my first guests because her story is fascinating. I think she's amazing. And if you're wondering what her name is Jill Osur. You can see her lovely face. How many years ago did we meet, Jill?
Goodness. It was before COVID. So wasn't it? I don't know.
I know. It's like a blur.
Which life was it? Was it the after COVID life?
I know, but there was
life?
like a point in there where it's like the in-between COVID life where you were kind of still in COVID, but some of us were like, yay, we're out, right? And then there was the really after COVID part. I think we met in that gray zone where it was still a little something going on, or I don't know.
The day I met you, I remember thinking, like, when I got to know you, I felt like, okay, we've known each other for a long time. So that it feels like we've been friends forever.
Yeah. No, same. And I loved your energy. I know when I saw you do your Sheed moment, and the Sheed moment, for those listening, it's like a TEDx type talk that an organization that we both are on the advisory board on, the Enterprising Women. They usually pick about 8 women to do these Sheed moments, and they start the conference off with these moments. And Jill you were the first one. Right?
I was, yes.
Yeah, you were the first one. And all I can say is I was just like, I love her. I don't even know if we had met at that point, but for me, that was my defining moment when I met you. And I was like, wow. But you talked about leaving the company that you were with, and you basically had posted something around Black Lives Matter on the social media page, right? And you got some feedback from the other
That's a nice
members.
way to put it.
And basically it was like, take it down. We're not doing that. And it really was like a moment for you where you had to like kind of just make some decisions. To me, it was just, I could just tell that was like a moment. And you made this incredible decision. And I just thought the courage and everything. So I'm going to let you tell that story because I just feel like that's the only way people can begin to really grasp like who you are as a person and why I'm so excited to talk about juicy things. And before I go too far, I do want to say, the podcast is called Stay Juicy. And oh, by the way, we're supposed to be drinking out of our Stay Juicy, Healthy, Sexy Glow mugs. But life happens. So the mug is somewhere there for you. And she's channeling a different mug, but I'm channeling Stay Juicy. But the podcast is really about juicy lives, juicy experiences, and juicy vaginas. And my motto is saving the world just one vagina at a time. And
cheers to that.
Yes. And I love it. I had a conversation with someone recently, and I was like, I don't know if you asked me even 10 years ago that I want to be that person and be like, yes, I'm saving the world one vagina at a time. I probably would look at you like you were crazy because I was doing a totally different type of medicine. But I want you to tell your story of that incident, so to speak, and your words are priceless. So
thank you. And thank you for having me on today. And to share my story is important to me because I feel like when I do share my story, it resonates and other people experience the same things as I know you know in the work that you do. And for me, COVID was just a sincere wake-up call. And I think the universe had been giving me signals. I just wasn't paying attention. But yeah, following the murders of Ahmaud Arbery and George Floyd, I just sat in my office because we were all home because of COVID. Everything was shut down. We were working from home, and Breonna Taylor as well. And I just said, we have a diversity of investors and employees and customers. So we have to create a post in support of Black Lives Matter. So I went to our executive team. This was a winery group that I was a major owner in. And our executive team was myself and 3 other men. So I said, why don't I just craft something? And if we're okay with it, we'll post it. So I crafted it. We voted that it was fine. We posted it. And the next morning I woke up and I opened my laptop to check my emails as I always do. And there was an email from the largest investor in our winery group. And the email was sent to the 4 of us, but it was only addressed to me. And it said, Dear Jill, how dare you post in support of Black Lives Matter? This political post will damage me personally and professionally. If you don't take it down, I'm going to ask for your resignation. And if that doesn't work, I'm going to hire attorneys to sue our own company. And I literally remember thinking in that moment, how could something so supportive be seen as so divisive? And yet that entire week following, he continued to push for the post to be taken down, for our board to meet, for me to resign. At the same time, we had wine blogger praise us for being the first wine company out there taking a leadership position on this important topic. And I was really proud to have led this effort. So we meet at the end of the week. Our board votes that we're going to keep the post up, but also votes that moving forward, we're never going to use our platform or our voice on any social issues. And I was the only dissenting. So I started to just ask myself, what else could I do as a leader in the wine industry to be part of the solutions that I wanted to see? And I started looking at research in my own industry to see that there's only 10% female winemakers, 0.1% Black winemakers, men and women. Female sommeliers are still making 84 cents on the dollar. Yes, there are women in tasting rooms, but when you look at the industry as a whole, there are very few women in leadership positions and even fewer women of color. Yet 76% of all wine is purchased by women. And I know I was put on this earth to use my voice. And what I hadn't been paying attention to was my throat had been hurting for a long time, and my heart had been hurting, and my stomach had been hurting. And you and I both know Dr. Brenda Wade. She's a WPO chapter chair and a holistic psychologist. But before she was a psychologist, she was a hard brain scientist. So I was really struggling with all of this. I was in a lot of physical pain, but also my world was rocked because I was like, how could this be happening? Right? This is the right thing to do. I'm getting asked to resign. I'm getting threatened that we're going to sue to get me to leave this company. And so I went to talk to Brenda just to help me navigate the struggle I was experiencing. And I was telling her about the pain in my throat and my heart and, my chest and my stomach. And she then shared with me that in her former life as a hard brain scientist, she had done a lot of research that we have three legitimate brains: our head, our heart, and our gut. And so she was saying all of this study substantiates the pain you're having in your body. Your body's sending you signals that you're just not paying attention to. Like your throat's hurting because you can't speak your truth. And when you do, you get lashed out at, whether as a woman or in this case, doing something that I felt was right for humanity. My chest was hurting because constantly my heart, was like, my when I would check in with my heart, I'm like, this is the right thing to do, and then our gut, especially, as women, women's intuition is so powerful, and your gut is the first brain to fire, and it's constantly sending us signals, and I wasn't paying attention. So when I finally got in alignment and integrity with all three of my brains, it was clear to me that I needed to leave, and because I couldn't live my truth, and I certainly couldn't speak my truth at this company. And so I, keeping in line with what could I do to create a company that would be more in alignment and integrity with who I was. I left that company in June, and in October 1st of 2020, I launched Teneral Cellars, and it's a women-owned and run wine company, and we're on a mission to use wine as a conduit for change, so that when you open a bottle of wine, you open the necessary conversations, and we donate 10% of profits back to organizations that empower women and fight for gender and racial justice. But that's where I get to have conversations. We did a women's health collection that we're talking about the inequities in healthcare. And as a woman going through menopause, like I've taken advantage, to be honest, of like great resources around me to not only educate myself, but to share with others. And the best conversations I've ever had, there was wine on the table. So I just wanted to use wine as that conduit for change, and do it in a different way than it's been done before. And also to elevate women in our company so that we can create a more equitable industry. Yeah, our industry is not unique. It's much like very many other industries. But for me, it's about not just talking the talk, but walking the walk.
And you definitely walk the walk, and you just walk the walk of your introduction that I didn't do at all, except saying, I love Jill, she's here, and I, have to take for granted everybody doesn't know. But you said the important part, which was just giving us, your story and how it's impacted and informed how you're going forward. And not only do you have Teneral Cellars, which your founder, CEO, but also the newest endeavor, the Grand Reserve Inn, which is this 5-star hotel property that you've incorporated the Teneral Cellars and all of this together. And you're speaking your truth just by all the things that you're doing and how you are.
Well, it said, I wasn't looking for a property that had a 5-star boutique hotel on it, but we needed a home for Teneral Cellars. And when I walked on this property, and it had the tasting room that we needed, it had a winery that we needed, vineyards, and then this gorgeous Tuscan villa, boutique hotel, the energy was so incredible that all I could think was, what a beautiful place to purpose.
Yeah.
When people come on the property, you see dragonflies everywhere, especially this time of year, and their
Oh,
energy is
wow.
beautiful for people to create, to retreat. And I could see instantly, like, here's a great place for women to come and talk about staying juicy, or come and write, and or for small, leadership teams to come and really be creative and plan, and but also just friends and family find it. It's a beautiful, beautiful place. And what we always hear is, it feels like you're in Tuscany without the airfare, because you're nestled in the
Wow.
vineyards, and it's gorgeous. So yeah, we bought that last June, and you can come on our website at teneralcellars.com and see it, but until you actually see it in person, it doesn't do the beauty justice.
Yeah, I can't wait. And the more you talk about it, the more I'm like, why haven't I been there? And I know we had some plans to do some things, and we're still going to do those things. But now the more that you describe it, I'm like, okay, I'm going to that's it. But I know that I can only imagine what the property looks like. And another thing I want to say about just what I have admired about you is you recently did a TEDx talk, and every time I see you, you're just expanding and growing and doing. And I've listened to several of your talks, but they all have this same empowering theme. And that was in your last one, listening to your head. We have the full capacity thinking and using all of those parts of yourself to make decisions, and knowing that, when all of those things are in alignment, then that's when we're in our best space, right? And that's
Yeah,
when
well,
we
think
can
about this.
create.
Think about the culture that we live in. We value intellect so much. But all you have to
Yes.
do is look at the world condition to know that intellect doesn't solve all of our problems. And I think so much leadership, we've been taught these ways to lead, and it's all about, gather the necessary data, the thoughtful analysis, but we don't listen to our heart and our gut. And when those three brains are in alignment and integrity, we actually are taking care of all stakeholders.
Yeah.
And I feel like, when I left my old wine company and started Teneral Cellars, I wanted to lead from love and be loved.
Yeah.
And that felt good to me. I mean, you and I have talked about this, but I was a competitive athlete growing up and played softball at college at Berkeley, and was a catcher. So using my voice has always been instrumental to my success. But I knew how to live in my masculine energy, and I knew how to win, right? Because I was taught that as a competitive athlete. And, you scuff your knee, you get up, and you fight harder. And so I was conforming with everything that I was taught as a child by society, all of that. I literally got married right after college at 22. I started having babies with my husband. And, I have three beautiful grown children who are, 31, 30, and 27. And from everyone looking in at my life, I was living the perfect life, right? I had the big home and the cars and the beautiful, the handsome husband and three great kids. And I didn't even know myself, and it's really interesting because I think about the dragonfly and why I chose that. It's a symbol of light, and it reminds us, symbol of transformation. It reminds us to be the light. And there isn't a culture in the world where it isn't a positive symbol of hope and love and new beginnings and transformation. And my daughter and I used to watch the Gilmore Girls, so we love the dragonfly. And so, and then the word tendril is when a dragonfly comes out of its cast and it's in its most vulnerable state, and its wings are colorless and it can't fly. And within a few days, it gets its full colors in its wings, spreads its wings, takes off with amazing power and grace, or grit and grace. And for me, that represents women. Like, we all have that power within us. We just have to claim our power, spread our wings, and fly. And I was that vulnerable dragonfly. And so when I started Teneral Cellars, I thought, well, I've made it, right? I'm like the dragonfly. I've transformed, and I've started this company. I'm living my best life. I didn't even know who I was. To know about the life cycle of a dragonfly, the nymph phase is the longest phase in the dragonfly's life. It's spent almost entirely underwater for almost 2 years. But a dragonfly can shed its protective shell or molt up to 14 times, which is to shed its protective shell and make way for new growth. So I had no idea that I was just starting to grow and transform, because once I was in alignment and integrity with who I was, it was time for me to start figuring out my life. And, I had been with my ex-husband for almost 10 years, yet I hadn't filed for divorce. I just kept thinking, I'm busy, I'm starting a new company, living my best life. But when I checked in with my head, heart, and gut, I'm like, I need to do this. This is, in the day I filed for divorce, literally it felt like a 50-ton weight was just,
Wow.
dropped from my shoulders. And then I started doing work on myself, and I realized that I'm an empath, and I'm a triple water sign, but my Reiki healer said, everything you're feeling isn't yours. They said, you're taking everything in and it's staying in your chest. And so when I learned to let it go through, I realized I had no capacity to feel my own stuff. So I had
Yeah.
probably stopped feeling 20 years ago because I wasn't seen, heard, or valued in my marriage. And I was just coping, and I had shut down, but I was still a feeler. I was crying at everything because I'm an empath, right? And I'm a triple
Yeah.
water sign. So, but that was a real eye opener for me. And the biggest eye opener is that, I had to learn to break down to break through, which meant I had to learn to sit in silence a lot and feel my pain and feel. I wasn't feeling. I had to learn to feel. And somebody had given me the book Untamed by Glennon Doyle when I started Teneral Cellars. And I loved it because she was talking about how the world starts to tame girls by the time they're 8, and what to wear, what to think, what to say, how to act. But I fell in love with the love story in the book because she was married to a man. He was cheating on her, and she was at a conference, and Abby Wambach, the world-class Olympic soccer player, walks in, and Glennon wouldn't know a sport if it hit her in the side of the head, but Abby walked in and her knees buckled, and they're married today. And so long story short, it's just like, I felt like, who wouldn't want that kind of love? Well, I
Yeah.
realized that for me to receive that kind of love in my life, I had to learn to love myself. And when I did, I also said I was open to, all
All
kinds of
love.
love, including all love,
All of,
including
yeah, I know
what it would.
we're getting to that. We're
Yeah.
getting to that part because I got to tell this story. When I met you, I just honestly, I assumed that you were a lesbian. I just did. I'm going to be
I love
really
that.
real.
So apparently, so did everybody else.
Yeah. And I even thought to myself, because I'm not going to lie, I ponder these questions, and I ponder, like, could you ever be with a woman? Like, because sometimes, let's be honest, men, it's just like, I just relate more to women, right? I love talking to women. Like, so it's like, that makes sense. And it's like, no, I don't. For me, I can't. Like, it's not in me. But if I could, I would. Like, I absolutely would. And when I met you, I thought, oh, she's cute. And I thought, if I rolled that way, I could roll that way. Like, I liked you on every level. I just thought, oh, I just like her. But, and then the next time we met, you were telling me you were getting a divorce. And then I was like, wait, what? And then I was like, I was confused because I was like, she's married to a man? And I was really confused at that point. I was genuinely confused. But I was like, hey, what do I know? And then the next time we spoke, I remember this. We were on the phone, and you were like, I have something to tell you. I have something to tell you. And I don't remember the exact words you said, but I just remember thinking, girl, you just now figuring this out. And in my mind, but I was so happy. So anyway, I'm sure you remember, but at the end of the day, you have really discovered your full capacity to love, and you have found a love. And tell me about her.
Her name is Lisa, and we are engaged. We're actually going to be married next April. And when I said to some friends, like, I'm open to all love. I've learned to love myself. I've never kissed a woman, and because I played softball, it's funny. People have always said two things. Clearly, they thought I'd already kissed a woman, or that I was a lesbian. And in my mind, nope, wasn't either. Never was attracted to women because I wasn't feeling, and that's why I wasn't attracted to anyone, quite frankly, men or women. And in end of 2022, I kissed my first woman, and I went, holy crap, I'm home. It was a game changer for me, and that woman actually really helped me feel safe, and learn to love myself. Like, here I am, someone who, in all 35 years of being with my ex-husband, I was never comfortable being naked, never comfortable walking around the house. And this woman said, you know what? I want you to feel comfortable being naked and walking around the house. Like, every woman's body is beautiful. Think about what your body's been through. You've had 3 children, and your body is, a beautiful vessel. And I took that to heart and just really started to work on myself. That's when I saw the Reiki healer. That's when I did a lot of that. And so, but I still had lessons to learn. I had spent this whole life putting everyone else ahead of me and always dimming my light and shrinking who I was to make others happy. And even in the first couple relationships with women, I did that. And it wasn't until I learned to truly not do that, nor and realize like what extraordinary love was, what I deserved. The second I had ended this other relationship and finally said, I'm not doing that anymore, it was like the universe said, okay, you finally learned your lesson. Here she is. And dropped Lisa in my life. And she's a remarkable human being. She's been a keynote speaker in personal branding for the last 17 years and an author. And we met at a business matchmaking event where neither of us had any matches made for us. So we were like, what in the world are we doing here? And I remember saying to myself, okay, wait, pause. There's always a reason. Just be open to why you were meant to be here tonight, because there's always a silver lining or gold nugget. And we met, and from the second I hugged her, my body said, whoa, like we have known each other we have cycled the universe many times over. When she hugged me, her body said, there you are, I've been looking for you. And there's been a sense of knowing for us that we've been together forever.
Wow.
And so we're recreating our life. She's coming into the business. We're speaking together. We don't want to be apart. I mean, I'm 57, right? And she's just turned 60. And so it's like, life is short.
Yes.
And yes, we could say we wish we would have met earlier, but I think we're meeting exactly
You
when we
met
need
at the
to meet.
perfect time.
Exactly. And it's interesting because the first woman I met, she was a little older than me, so she was going through menopause, having a lot of challenges. She's the one who introduced me to pellets, and then you've consulted with me on a lot of things, because I was like many women. Here I am now getting back into dating, back into relationships, and I'm like, shit,
Yeah, what's going
dry, and
on?
I'm like, I'm struggling to get to orgasm, and now I'm back on the dating scene. Oh my god! And but getting my hormones and everything back into where I feel like I'm finally myself again, where my muscle tone is back and everything.
Well, as you were talking about what you felt, it struck me like, wow, like I wonder what your intimate experience with a man, like how did you feel in all those places, heart, gut, head, and what's the difference between when you were with a man and when you were with women? And I just want to understand that. Like how did that feel differently in your
I
body?
dated, yeah, I dated men since, as early as I can remember. And when I became sexually active in college, I had a couple of boyfriends before Dean. And even with him, we would have sexual intercourse, but I didn't get a lot of pleasure out of it. And for me, I didn't know any different. So it was like,
Yeah.
okay, like, all right, let's like, I got to do that to keep him happy, or, that. And then we had children. And so it really became focused about the children, but I didn't know any better. And I think even now looking back, I didn't ever feel that deep connection making love to a man. And I didn't feel seen, heard, or valued, quite frankly, which is why I now know I was probably turned off feeling decades ago. And then we weren't sexually active for a long, long time. And I didn't want it. It was like, no, I'm not missing it. And I think part of that was my hormones. Part of it was being not seen, heard, or valued. So I'd stop feeling. And so when I kissed a woman, because I was talking to this woman for a while before we ever kissed, and she said, you're not going to know until we actually kiss, like if this is for you or not. You could think it is, and we could be having a great time talking, but until we physically have that connection. With Lisa, even when we first started dating and became intimate, I still was having kind of PTSD around penetration. And because a lot of people make this assumption that, it's boring, it's very one-dimensional. So, I mean, we are so creative and we have fun, and we have a lot of different toys that we play with. And it's really interesting because I still do very much have a masculine side inside of me. And I have a craving for her. Like, I want to be inside of her. And so we play with a lot of things, and I'm completely past my PTSD, because we use strap-ons, we use a lot of different things, and we are very sexually active. Like, all she has to do is touch me, and I have an entire body reaction. And that's not going away. Like, we both have that craving for each other. And so I didn't even know what was possible because I never was where I was supposed to be with the right person.
Yeah.
And to be in alignment like that, to know that when we go to sleep, we want to, make love to each other. When we wake up, we want to make love. I mean, like, we touch each other, and physical touch is so important. It's a love language for both of us because I have found the right person. But I know when I first started kissing my first woman, I was struggling getting to orgasm. I was dry because I hadn't done any of the right hormone replacements to get my body back to where it is. But now that it
Alignment.
is, it's like my body feels in alignment with who I am and where I'm at. But I'm with a partner who feels the same way. So, like, it's nonstop with us. And it's a beautiful thing. I don't know. I never felt this kind of connection with a man, Aria. She sees me in such a deep way and hears me and values me that I never thought I could really, like, get turned on just by kissing. Not to mention, my body has become alive. Like, my breasts are like, that's my gateway. Everybody has a different gateway. It's like, she touches me there and it's like, wow, my whole body is alive. It's different for her, but we've learned that and we can communicate that. I could never communicate with my ex about that, like about what I needed. I tried in the beginning, and I think that's why I shut down. I tried to communicate what I needed, but I never felt it was about me. And so I got to a point where I just shut down. But every time and I make love, it's just, there's such a beautiful connection. And again, it's like, I'm 57 and she's 60, and we have the sex drives of like teenagers. She's always saying, well, you're making up for 35 years.
Right.
Of
You got a lot
having, good sex. Yeah. Happy to do that.
Yeah. And I think when I see women in the office, and we do these, what we call vaginal rejuvenation, I don't like the term, but at the end of the day, it's basically delivering radio frequency heat to the vaginal canal to stimulate collagen, increase lubrication, increase blood supply. And so women will tell me after they've had this treatment, like, I just feel like my brain and my vagina are connected again, or at least my brain and my clitoris are connected again, because it was like something had disconnected it and this turned it back on. But at the same time, I've had really just sad conversations, disappointing conversations of women that just are really not tapping into their pleasure. They're not just exploring their bodies. They don't even understand their bodies. And even at 58, I'm still learning things. I was like, I didn't even know that was in there. And we think of it as this little button on the outside, this clitoris. But there's so much more magic there. And even if you're not with, this love of your life partner, you can experience that actually with yourself. You can love yourself.
I
And
agree. And
give
that is,
yourself.
so that, yes.
Yeah. And I think once you have learned, at least for me, it's like, once I have learned how to really give my own, like, I know where all my spots are. Like, I know exactly. And you can't expect your partner necessarily. I mean, maybe some you can figure out all the parts, but it's like, you got to figure that out for yourself. You can't expect your partner to come and be like, okay, this is where it is, because there's some things in there that your partner might not even be able to get access to, just for a variety of different reasons. So I love hearing that, I think I'm a little envious, because I definitely don't go to bed and wake up wanting to have sex like that. And I think that comes with a lot of things, time and marriage and all the things, but still enjoy it and still want that. But I mean, it sounds like
also, I mean, to the question you were asking me, first of all, I'm finally comfortable with me. I love me, so I can talk about that. But she's created that safe space. So early in our relationship, we would just sit there and literally explore each other's bodies from head to toe, from every scar to everything, and get comfortable with that. And she's created a safe space for me to be comfortable talking about what does pleasure me. I could never say that when I was younger. Didn't love myself enough to do that. And so I think that's the beauty, is that I feel so seen and heard and valued. But also the electricity between us is, it's a serious, real thing. And, neither of us have felt that in past relationships. She's been out since she's 17. She's never felt that in a past relationship. So, but we are able to talk and really communicate and keep it fun and keep it exciting and try new things. And that's been crazy for me, because there's things I could never even have imagined or visualized. And so that's fun too. And that takes courage to just say yes, right? And try things. And
Yeah,
we feel so safe together that we're trying things. And it has been really amazing to me, like how much possibility is out there and how much fun. And I think that's part of keeping a relationship fresh and juicy
absolutely.
is trying new things. And so
Trying new things.
yeah. So I don't think I would have ever had it with a man because I think I truly was meant to be with a woman. But I like the connection I'm able to have and being able to keep it juicy. It's a two-way street, and we are both on the same page with that. I mean, I didn't want to get up this morning, and I was like, I got to do this podcast this morning because I was like, I don't want to get out of bed with her.
Right.
So
Well, I appreciate you breaking away from Lisa
thank you
and
so
giving
much.
me some
Thank you. I will
time.
tell her that.
Yes,
Yes.
tell her, thank you so much. Well, what you're describing is what so many women would love, myself included. I think that, you know, we have this connection with our partners, but there's a certain level of intimacy that on some level, it just feels like, I'm not saying you can't have that with a man, but I just think women have a certain way and a certain want. Like we're just designed so differently, right?
And I can't I can't talk about the heterosexual and relationship anymore because like I definitely am meant to be with a woman, but I do feel like there is something there. And thank God for me, it's I also I feel that connection that I could be with a woman. But yeah, I feel like there is such a deeper connection woman to woman that I don't know that I could ever have that with a man. And
Yeah.
so I feel so grateful.
As you should. We're not mad at you, but it's an interesting conversation because I think just on the topic of intimacy and just keeping it real about how we really show up in our marriages and as we go through this transition, because so many women that I see, they have no libido. They are doing these procedures or just trying to get help so that they can just be enough to do something with their partner. And it's not even about them. And it's just like,
Right.
no, girl, it's all about you getting your juicy on.
I feel like I'm living my best life. And it doesn't mean
You
that life
are.
isn't challenging and, business isn't challenging, but I have someone by my side in Lisa that no matter what happens, like we have a beautiful, beautiful life together. And I couldn't be more grateful. And for me, it was just about finding who I was and being true to me and manifesting extraordinary love. And so a lot of times when I speak, it's not about finding a woman. It's about knowing who you are, because when you love yourself, then you can find your true voice, and when you find your true voice, you can find your true people. But like you, Ariana, everyone has said to me, really, you didn't know you were gay? Like you're like, apparently I was the last one to know. I was so busy conforming and out of touch with what truly
Well,
made me feel alive
and
that apparently I was
that,
the last to know.
that right there, and your whole story, your whole transition. And this is why I loved your story. And I thought it was so perfect because it is all about what I mean when I say stay juicy, juicy lives, juicy experiences, juicy vaginas. But we're going through this transition. And this is just a really interesting time. And I am so excited when I see women who are embracing that change because, I see women all the time that are going down this path, and some of them are kicking and fighting and moaning and it's hard. Like it's a moment where you have to like honestly just almost ask yourself, am I doing this? Like, how are we going to do this? Because you have a
Yeah.
choice, right? And we have this choice to finally be ourselves. But that takes courage. It takes courage. And your story between leaving the company, starting your own company and what it meant, and then leaving, your husband and finding your true voice. I mean, you're like the epitome to me of a woman on the move and just really, I could say, taking this journey, menopause, transition, midlife, and just taking it like a bull by the horns, because that doesn't mean that all the things you experienced were easy in any way, right? Because that work is hard. Like there are some dark nights. There's turmoil. There's confusion. I mean,
So much
there's
of that.
so many things, and you just have to trust that you just keep pushing through, and you're gonna, like, you don't know what the end's gonna look like. You didn't know what you were gonna find at the end of this, and you're not even at the end.
No.
It's just a point on the path. I see women who just can't find their voice. And it saddens me because I know that it's like, if you could just see your brightness, we have been dimmed in so many ways. We have conformed in so many ways. And it's like a light bulb just comes on and you're just like, wait a minute, what is this? And I believe that the first half of our lives is just about, creating, building, and just doing the things. But this part is where we really get to deconstruct all of that and then just tap into and really find our own knowing. And that to me is the best gift that you can give to yourself, which is to just like shed all of the things, because we have been just bogged down with all the things. And when you start letting that go, I mean, that's what's really for me. Just shaving my head was probably a big part of that, because I was very attached to hair. Not that I had a whole bunch, and so I also had
And
some
look at
alopecia.
you. I mean, you rock that. Seriously. It's like, I mean, how freeing is that?
There is nothing more freeing, let me tell you. Because what I was doing, like I had alopecia. And so then I started wearing a wig and all kind of hair pieces. And it was just like all the things. And then obviously, I live in Arizona. It's hot. And I remember it's like, we're going into another hot season here. And I was just thinking about this wig on my head. And I was like, I'm going to take this wig off and I'm going to shave my head. I just want to see what it looks like. Because, I can always put the wig back on. I don't need to worry about anybody seeing my shaved head, but I want to see what will it look like. No intentions at all. And I looked in the mirror and I was like, nah. I had already dismissed it. Mo, my youngest kid, walked in and they said, Mom, I like that. And if you knew Mo, you'd be like, yeah, that Mo would tell you that, no, that's not
Right.
a look. Right. And so, but I could tell, like, genuinely, they were like, yeah, I think that's what, yeah. And so I was like, really? You think I can wear this? And then I went the next day to a Zumba class that was outside. And normally, even when I would work out, I'd have a little hairpiece that looked like my wig, and I have a bandana and I pull my hair back, and it was just a thing. Even working out, and I'd be like, oh, I don't want this hairpiece to fall off. It was just always a thing. It was just this thing that I had to worry about, right? And it was like an anchor. And I went to this Zumba class and I remember just dancing and sweating and not having to worry at all about my hairpiece falling out or anything. Like, it was just like something had just been taken away. And it was obviously physical, but it was something that happened that shifted in me spiritually. And then I could see myself, because I would look in the mirror and everything was in context with how my hair was.
Right.
Because your hair is an accessory, but I wasn't looking at my face. I wasn't looking at myself. I was never looking at me. I was looking at like this thing of me. And when the hair was gone, I was like, I saw myself for the first time, like, oh, there you are. Right. And I think it just snowballed from there. And so I understand that.
You rock that. It's so beautiful. And that sense of freeing, there's nothing that feels better than to be free. And so what I often talk to women about, it's like, sure, yes, it takes courage. There's no question. It takes courage, but I am telling you, what's on the other side,
that part,
it's so worth it. And yes, to your point, if the first half of your life is about learning and wisdom and taking all that in, also think about what is all the crap that we've been taught that we need to reevaluate, like this old operating system and, the way we're supposed to show up, and we're not supposed to be emotional. We're not supposed to be, this or that. I think as women, we have to question all of that.
All of it.
I am just beginning my journey. I mean, that's the beautiful thing. If I could come this far in such a short period of time, if I continue to do the work, and be open and show up every morning with gratitude and love and be loved, I know there is so much more out there for me. And I now have a partner that supports that. I mean, it's like, she knows everything, and so we are so in this together, and that's a beautiful thing. And I think any woman who feels like they are still sacrificing and putting others first and not truly loving themselves and not manifesting extraordinary love and extraordinary life. And again, even reevaluating what is an extraordinary life. Like, it's not, for me, it's not about stuff anymore.
Yeah.
Stuff is like the furthest from my mind, because I realize at this time, because we, at our age, we have people that are passing away. We have, so many changes in our lives. Like, I live every day like this is my last day on this planet. And I'm so grateful when I wake up. And I just want to come out and be this energy and just be so filled with gratitude. But getting on the other side, and yes, it takes courage, and yes, there is pain, but I'm telling you, ladies, it's so worth it. And so many people come to me now, Ariana, and they're telling me how they have sex with their husband or their partner like once a month and they don't feel it. And I'm like, you don't have to feel that way. Like, you don't
Exactly.
have to feel that way. I am living my best life. I didn't even feel this way when I was younger. And so I just feel like there's, it's not the end when you get over 50, it's the beginning. And there are so many resources. And because of people like you were talking about menopause, we are openly talking about the struggles that we have, and there are solutions. Like, you gave me all the solutions. I could take something, I could put a patch on, I could do pellets, and and knowing all the resources. But once I went down that path, it just enabled me to be, come in with and click with all the other stuff I was doing. And I needed that. Trust me, if that was still out of alignment, I don't know that I'd be doing what I'm doing, because I was feeling so sluggish. And so,
Yeah.
just everything was blah. And I was like, why am I feeling like this? I work out every day. And now it's oh my goodness, it's like my cup overfloweth.
Yeah. Well, and I tell people I'm not a hormone pusher, but I am, and they're definitely not for everyone. But I mean, they're life changing, and we've listened to a lot of different narratives about what we should do and what we shouldn't do, and even around the conversation around hormone therapy, that pendulum is shifted. And at the end of the day, you got to ask yourself, what is going to make you feel your best, and how are you going to have the best quality of life? Because even when we talk about the risk, like if we use breast cancer as a risk, I was thinking about this number the other day. That risk is somewhere like 5 out of 10,000. I mean, it's less than a 0.1% risk, but let's just go with 1% risk that you are increasing your risk for breast cancer. Let's use that argument, even though that's 10 times what your risk theoretically could be. Quality of life versus
Yes.
less than 1% risk. Now, again, I'm sure I'll get some slack for that, but I don't really care anymore, because when I tell you I have changed lives, I have changed marriages, and I've definitely saved some vaginas, but I know that for the women that it has worked for and that really benefit from it, they benefited from it. There's some women that don't feel they need it, and that's absolutely fine. I am not in any way saying.
Absolutely.
But if you're struggling, man, you don't have to be on that struggle bus. And this period
Correct.
is a struggle. You could be on a struggle bus. And it's like, do you want to be on the struggle bus, or do you want potentially a way that's just going to help you recapture yourself and just feel your best? Because quality of life that's all we got right now. It's quality of life, right? We don't know how much time we
Well, and
got.
also, I mean, that percentage also, it's for women that are of high risk, right? I mean, for me, it's been a life changer, absolute life changer. And I'm healthy, I'm eating plant-based foods, I'm taking care of myself, I'm doing everything I can. But before I did, worked on my hormones, all of that I was still miserable and sluggish, and I was really struggling. And this has just been a game changer. And it's just shocking to me how many women still have no idea that this is an option.
Right.
And that's why I love that you talk so openly about it. We talk all the time about that. That's why, I created, Women's Health Line, so we could have these conversations. And I love that Oprah's talking about it now, so that it's so mainstream that we can really have these conversations, because this is the best time of our life, and we should be living our best lives and our most juicy lives.
Most juicy. But I think that your story of just not feeling and not even really knowing who you were is that you're not alone in that, and that
Yeah.
it's like we're walking zombies and we're
Yeah.
just going through the motions. And the same for my life. It's like I graduated, I got married actually before I even graduated from medical school. And I mean, if I'm honest, it was like, I was checking off the list because
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have the confidence that I even find a partner that would love me or want to be with me. So I figured I'd just, go with this one here. And there are other things I realized, like, why did you stay with him like that? But I think in the end, I thought, okay, the sex was good. And I think that just was clouded me enough to be like, okay, I could do this. But when dust landed and the smoke went away, it was like, oh yeah, that wasn't good. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was
35 years of that for me.
yeah, well, we were together, technically 18 months. So I don't even really count it because I feel I was young and it was 18 months and whatever. But point being is I was checking off that list. And even
Yeah.
in my, current marriage, I realized I wanted kids. There's certain things that I wanted for my life, that it was the Kool-Aid that we drink, what we expect to do. We want to be a mother. We want to have the kids. Like you do the things, right? It's so funny. We were in Turks and Caicos recently celebrating our 25th. There was this guy who was proposing to this woman, and he was doing the whole thing. It was like one of these beaches resorts, and they had the whole dinner out, and the guy was serenading, and she was there, and he was, he got on his knee, and me and a whole bunch of our girlfriends, we're in the ocean. We're just chilling. We're just having a good old time. We're talking. Actually, we had kicked all of our husbands out of the water because we're like, it's time to have some real girl talk here. And we're just like, girl, because he's getting on my nerves. Like we were just keeping it very real and having that conversation. And it was just so refreshing to be like, yes, I love my husband. He's great. Like at the end of the day, he does all the things great. But yeah, we're talking about the real stuff that gets on your nerves, right? And so we're looking at this couple and we're saying, don't do it, girl. Don't drink the Kool-Aid. Don't do it. Like, because she's just like, oh, and it's like, I had the ring and you just feel like the princess. And we are literally like, you don't have to do it. Don't drink it, girl. Like, just, trust and believe. And we were chuckling because we all drank the Kool-Aid. And I'm not knocking the Kool-Aid. Don't get me wrong, because there's some good things to the Kool-Aid, but there's just so much more. And the fact that you could, it looks almost like the Matrix, right? You just break out and you can really be like, what are we really doing here? And so that's, again, just something I really just admire. And I just love, like, your story is, to me, you're like the superwoman of menopause and how it can really show you how you really can show up and change and do the thing.
Thank you. It's so fun to have this conversation. But you know what? You keep being your light because you are changing so many lives, and we need it, and we need more. We need more doctors like you, Ariana. I will always remember your story of, when you were telling me that, you only got 2 hours of training in medical school on menopause, and after, having this moment in the middle of surgery, and it was just shocking to me as a layperson. But, this has to change, and this has to be front and center. And thank you for doing that. Thank you for putting women front and center and showing us that we can live our best lives, especially through menopause.
Well, I thank you because, like I said, you are, to me, the poster child of a woman on the move, a woman who's keeping it juicy. And on that note, I do have a question. How do you define keeping it juicy? What does that look like for you?
Well, because I have my hormones, all in it straight now, I don't have any issue keeping it juicy
Yeah.
because, I'm happy to say this. This is what we have to talk about too. I have a very healthy sex drive. And so for me, it's being communicative with my partner. We both seem to be in alignment on that. But it's also, you and I have talked about this. I also love like products from Lovability, and like she's got some amazing things for women to stay juicy and just fun things. I think it's about keeping fun in your life and changing it up, and but communicating constantly about where you are and who you are so that you can truly speak your truth. But I also know that my having pellets and making sure my thyroid is good, and all my progesterone and all of that is just a critical part of that. But working out and staying fit, and knowing in my mind the meditation in the morning and my Kundalini yoga, it's really grounding for me, so that I am grateful for every day that I have on this planet. And I thank you, because you've been such an important part of my journey, honestly. If I was closer, you would be my regular doctor, but I love that I can just check in with you and talk through certain things. And it's so important to have that resource too. I think every woman has to have that resource. And being true to me is how I stay juicy. Honestly, it's staying in alignment and integrity with my highest self, and constantly checking with my head, heart, and gut, and knowing that I have to love me first. And when I do that, then I'm capable of giving out a tremendous amount of love and being loved.
What do you think, if you could give a message to a woman who is, whether feeling in conflict, feeling stuck, feeling like she can't find her voice, what words of advice would you say that might help, and what may have helped you through what may have been some of your darkest days?
I think the best advice I could give, honestly, is for women to start making a daily practice of checking in with your head, heart, and gut. Before you make a decision, take a pause and say, is that in alignment with my head, my heart, and my gut? How is my body feeling? Am I feeling it in my throat? Am I feeling it in my chest? Am I feeling it in my gut? What is my gut saying? And then it's really important to sit with yourself and be true to you. And if you're not being true to you, you need to sit in that, and you need to do some work around that, and start to question the belief systems that we've been taught, because there are a bunch of marketing campaigns, and what feels true to you. And when you start doing that on a daily basis, when you start pausing and checking in with your head, heart, and gut, you can live a life that's more aligned with you. And yes, it might be scary, because that might mean there are some changes in the future. But again, I'm going to tell you, when you have the courage to make that change and put you first, your life on the other side is beautiful. And again, it's not about stuff for me anymore. It's about the real things that are important. And those things couldn't be more alive in my life and more fulfilled. And that's freedom. And it's so freeing. And I can't wait to see what's next. And so I would just say to every woman, just really check in. If you've been leaving the best part of yourself at the door on most days, like so many women, it's time for change. It's time for change. If there's ever been a time for women to step into who they are, it is now. It's now. We're
It is
52% of the
now.
population. And if we would step up and support each other, we could shift every power dynamic in this world overnight, being 52% of the population. So be courageous, and start knowing what you want and being true to you. Because when you find your true voice, you will find your true people.
Yeah, finding your people. And on that note, I want you to tell us how, because you have a couple of things going on, and one is around women and health. You mentioned it earlier. I want to get the details on that.
Yeah, well, we have a beautiful women's health collection. We did a collection that donated money back to Padma Lakshmi's charity, the Endometriosis Foundation, and we had a bottle that was 1 in 10 with ovaries on it, a uterus, and 1 in 10 women will suffer with endometriosis. We had a bottle with a beautiful pair of breasts painted on it, because 1 in 8 women will be diagnosed with breast cancer, and a bottle with a heart on it, because 1 in 3 women will die of cardiovascular disease. And for us, it was about opening up the bottle and opening up the necessary conversations around that health inequities in this country, and more conversations like this that have to happen. And so we donate 10% of all of our profits back to organizations that empower women and fight for gender and racial justice. As the holidays come up, I mean, it's a perfect purchase
It's
with
a
purpose,
perfect gift.
because Yeah,
And
I
it's
mean,
good
we're women
wine.
owned and run. Yes, it's award-winning wine, and we sustainably farm and produce it, so no pesticides, no chemicals, very clean. And but you're supporting a women-owned company. You're supporting a company that is doing right by Mother Earth, and a company that's giving back with every purchase, and all of that, and as well as the inn can be found at teneralcellars.com. And we need to give all of your listeners a discount. So we'll make you a club member and give everybody a 20% discount. We could put that link in the, when you post this,
Oh,
and
thank you.
get people to support. Yeah. And we've got
Yeah,
great holiday stuff coming up too, discounts. So
yeah, no, it's a great. I bought a case one year, but the ones I still have a couple of them, but I just gave them away as gifts. And, when I got the wine, when I first met you, I was like, oh, it's wine, it's fine. And then I got it and I was like, oh, this actually is good wine. Like I like
yes.
it. So yes, it's a wonderful gift. You're a wonderful visionary, and I cannot wait to see what you are going to be doing next. 'Cause I know it's going to be something.
So, yeah. And then people can also check out jillandlisa.com, because we're now speaking together, and whether it's on personal branding and leadership, leading from your heart. And this is the beautiful thing. It's like you can recreate your life, and we're doing that together and speaking. And she's now our chief marketing officer in the company. So I'm really, really happy about what's coming. And I just encourage every woman to just step into their own truth and create a new journey for the rest of your life.
And just so I'm clear, who's your primary audience that you're speaking to, Jill and Lisa?
Women are our primary audience. So it's really leading with heart-centered leadership, and also just finding out who you are, what your personal brand is. Again, we've been told who we are, and it's so important to get into full alignment and integrity with your full self, operate in full capacity thinking, and also understand who you are and what your personal brand is. And we have come together with both of our talks because they were so similar, but to create a high energy keynote opportunity as well as workshops.
Okay. I love that. See, I didn't even know that, but I'm glad you shared it. And I'm so glad that we had this time. I appreciate you so much. Thank you for being that juicy woman on the glow and doing all the things. And we will connect very soon. Thank you all for listening. I'm Dr. Ariana. My guest here, Miss Jill Osur, is amazing. And I feel like I'm gushing, but I just love what you're doing. And I think your story just resonates with me so much. So I'm glad I got to share it. And I hope that it inspires someone to just think outside of the box, maybe really reflect on their lives a little differently, and have the courage to live your best life and understand that's what it's all about. Keeping it juicy lives, juicy experiences. We're only here for a minute. And so we want to extract all the juice out of all the things. So thank you again, Jill, for
Amen
being
to that.
here. All right, guys. I'll see you next time.
Thank you for having me.